Just a 9-game slate on this Thursday around Major League Baseball. So we're going to break down every single game in this final half hour with Donnie Rightside here on this Thursday on the early line. Game number 1 that we look at today in Kansas City, an American League Central divisional duel. The Guardians had their longest active win streak of 7 games come to a close yesterday on the road in Baltimore. Our team, the Kansas City Royals, struggling ever so slightly as of late. But a victory yesterday over the Marlins in a short 2-game set to split that series. That's what you should do, beat the third worst team in all of MLB. Today, at home, inside Kauffman, the Royals an ever so slight underdog, minus 104. The Guardians minus 112. That updated money line price, but DRS, it's a virtual pick'em. Who wins today in Kansas City?
By the way, take a look at this lineup here today, and I'm just going to go over the first 5 guys for reason here for those Kansas City Royals. Garcia, Witt, Pasquantino, Perez, Michael Massey, one of those names that we haven't heard in quite some time, and key that he's a left-handed hitter. Now, let's set up this here for Ben Lively. Over the past 30 days in Major League Baseball, 81 at-bats he's faced here. A 149 ISO and a 301 weighted on base percentage. And to lefties, which is usually where we like to play here against right-handed pitchers, he's actually been very good on the season and also over the past 30 days. A little bit of trouble here from the right side, but it's not an effective enough number for I to say, you know what, it's an automatic victory or play on even a team total or an RBI here for those Kansas City Royals. Temperatures here, 79 degrees, wind blowing out to right field at about 6 to 7 miles an hour. That helps. But if you're taking a look at Lively's statistics, and not a great pitcher by nature overall throughout his career, but if you are just looking and say, forget about the pitcher itself, it's just a right-hand guy, you look at that lineup here for the Kansas City Royals. Witt, positive numbers. Pasquantino, positive numbers. Salvador Perez, a 181 ISO power number over his last 30 days against right-handed pitching. Massey, again, just coming back to that lineup here, only 5 at-bats, but still performing well. 200 ISO, 432 weighted on base percentage. Melendez and Renfroe also above. So I like the way that lineup is projecting. Having said that, we know the better overall team here on the card today is the Cleveland Guardians. Waka's on the mound. Take a look, Ben, at his last 30 days. Only 40 batters he's faced, so not a huge sample size, but look at this, a 105 ISO power number and a weighted on base percentage of 252. We should get runs because both of these pitchers could be hit, but I got to tell you right now, just the way it sets up, I think the better team is the Guardians. That's the way I would lean today in this one.
Vinny Pasquantino, our guy, the Pasquan.
He is.
Plus 110 to record an RBI, tied for the third shortest number to do that today with Jose Ramirez, who has 72 this year, second most in all of Major League Baseball, only behind the 77 ribbies of Aaron Judge. The Guardians still playing great baseball right now when you look at the American League Central. Cleveland, 8-game lead over Minnesota, 9-game advantage over the Royals. KC still 6 games above 500. But I bet the over of the win total of 73.5 this offseason, thanks to the great guidance of our MLB insider, Craig Mish. We miss him on daily basis today. Craig! Anyway, for Kansas City, they were 34-19 on May 25th, capping off an 8-game win streak on that day with yet another victory. I thought, DRS, we might go over 73.5 by the end of August. I was like, this deal is already done. From that point, they are 10-19. So it hasn't been easy or smooth sailing for this Royals team, but I would still say at this point, performing above expectation in the 2024 MLB campaign. The Yankees, above expectation to start, but on a slight slide. They start a 4-game set this weekend in Toronto today, up in the 6th. The Yanks have dropped 9 of their last 12. They were just swept in the Subway Series by the New York Mets. The Blue Jays and the Red Sox played an inning and a half yesterday at Fenway. Bad weather caused that game to be suspended. They'll resume it back at the end of August. Today, though, the Yanks, as they were in both games in Queens, a road favorite, minus 138 with Carlos Rodon on the bump.
I got to tell you, sometimes, Ben, you got to take a leap of faith on what you're actually looking at. And hear me out on this today. You're taking a look at 2 pitchers that are certainly susceptible and might be able to get banged around quite a bit. Because if I'm looking at this, we'll start with Carlos Rodon. Left-handed pitcher, 117 batters he's faced over the past 30 days. Take a look at his ISO power numbers combined. 229 and 346 for his weighted on base percentage. That's not good enough. He's a left-handed pitcher. You're supposed to dominate lefties. He hasn't been doing that. And also, equal opportunity right-handers, Ben, also getting the best of them. Here's the issue why I say taking that leap of faith. Sometimes you just have to fade pitchers. And a lot of times I'll tell you, you still need a good at-bat or a good lineup here to sort of get after those bad pitchers. And you might be leaning on that because looking at that Toronto lineup today, Ben, against lefties for the past 30 days, they've been absolutely abysmal. You take a look at some of those ISO power numbers. Bo Bichette, 067. Turner, 0. Springer, 0. Jansen, 0. Schneider, 0. Kiner Falefa, 0. Kiermaier, 0. Like, it's almost hard to even do that here. And we're not talking about 3-4 at-bats. Most of those guys, 15 to 20 at-bats over the past 30 days. But they still should be able to hit Carlos Rodon, who has been struggling. Now, let's flip it over to the other side and take a look at Jose Barrios, one of the better pitchers in Major League Baseball. Pedigree-wise, he hasn't really shown up this year, particularly, Ben. Last 30 days, 202 ISO power number, weighted on base percentage, 345. Lefties and righties getting the best of them. But it's still not a great lineup here presenting for the New York Yankees. Now, the Yankees over the past 30 days against right-handed pitching, some of those guys still standing out, rightfully so. You know it's going to be Soto. You know it's going to be Aaron Judge on that list. Wells and Grisham also, but in between, Verdugo, Rice, LeMahieu, really struggling at that point. So when I say take a leap of faith, both of these pitchers should be hit. You also take a look at a ballpark in Toronto that moving the fences in, you know, it's not as if we're playing out in San Francisco or San Diego at this point. So that 8.5, theoretically, you probably shouldn't be taking it based on the numbers because I like to take perfect matches. But if you were going to take it, I'd take the over because these two pitchers should be hit around by these two lineups.
The Blue Jays were good offensively in Fenway, 15 total runs in only their 2 games, and did snap that 7-game skid on Tuesday night with a victory over Boston. Postseason rematch today starting in Baltimore. Last year, the O's were the number 1 seed in the American League postseason bracket, got the Texas Rangers in the opening round, got swept in the best of 5 in only 3 games. Can Baltimore bounce back in terms of the rematch? The odds makers certainly expect that to be the case. Minus 220, the number for the O's in their favor, with Corbin Burnes on the bump against the reigning World Series champs, the Rangers. Are the odds justified, DRS, to see Corbin Burnes in Baltimore that heavy of a favorite against Texas?
You should be justified in that game today. Still some good weather conditions down there at Camden Yards, but also, you know, we talked about earlier some of those other pitchers stepping up in the lineup for the Baltimore Orioles to be that stopper. You got that yesterday. Now your ace comes on the mound, and he should be good today, but also that's not the focal point for me. I really want to look at maybe a team total for the Baltimore Orioles and how it sets up. You take a look at John Gray on the mound, 63 batters he's faced over the past 30 days. His numbers aren't bad, guys. A 148 ISO, couple that with a 334 weighted on base percentage. Say, Donnie, how could you go against that? Here's the problem. He's a right-handed pitcher. He's been very good against right-handed batters, but where you get to him is from that left-hander position. If we're looking at 9 guys in the lineup today for the Baltimore Orioles, now, again, we don't have an official lineup this earlier in the day.
Right.
We're looking at least 5 batters from the left-hand side. And when you take a look at some of those left-handed batters, Gunnar Henderson, a 366 ISO over the past 30 days against right-handed pitching. You take a look at Rutschman, a 347 weighted on base percentage. Ryan O'Hearn, 335 weighted on base percentage. Santander, 430 weighted on base percentage. Couple that with a 367 ISO there. Also, Kierstad will be in that lineup, and Mullins. A lot of left-handed batters. I'm not even going to handicap the Rangers side of it. This should be an easy win for the Baltimore Orioles. And if you are looking at totals, don't take the total for the game because Burnes is on the mound. They should be able to hit Gray on the opposite side. The Orioles should be back in place.
Silent J back up for Baltimore. Yeah. Heston Kjerstad out of Arkansas. He was a guy that was called up, went back down. So much talent in that farm system for the O's. The Rangers were swept in Milwaukee during this.
People not happy with the Orioles back there.
A bullhorn somewhere in studio. The Rangers swept in Milwaukee this week. The O's avoided the sweep yesterday, snapping a 5-game skid with a victory over the Guardians. Rubber match today out in the desert in Arizona. The D-backs took game 1 against the Twins 5-4. Minnesota responds yesterday with an 8-3 victory. As we look at the odds tonight in Phoenix, or actually some day baseball in Arizona. Early 3:41 p.m. Eastern time. That's before 4 p.m. Pacific out there. The Diamondbacks are a slight home favorite at minus 112 now with Jordan Montgomery on the bump. Your thoughts on that game on the other side?
Yeah.
Plenty more to get to. We've got 6 more games to break down across this 9-game Thursday MLB card. We will do all of that here on this Thursday on the early line. Into the mind of Donnie Rightside. In person, live right here in studio on SportsGrid. That's after the break. 9-game Major League Baseball slate on this Thursday. A few during the afternoon hours. That includes in Arizona. Game 3, the rubber match of a midweek set between the Twins and the Diamondbacks. Arizona victorious in Game 1. Minnesota responds in Game 2. It's a virtual pick'em for Game 3 to decide the series. So who wins it?
By the way, let's get this straight here, too. Montgomery's on the mound. Do you know who's on the opposite side here? Do you see the name?
I see Festa.
There, look, from The Godfather. Enjoy the Festa, because that's what it's going to be out there in the desert today. Let me get this straight. And it's not from that side of the pitching staff. It's the other side. It's Montgomery on the mound. He's hittable here as a left-handed pitcher. If you take a look at his last 30 days, a 250 ISO and a 414 weighted on base percentage against him through 93 batters. Why is that important today, Ben? In the lineup today, if we include switch hitters, we are going to get 9 right-handed bats for the Minnesota Twins. And you're taking a look at some of those guys outside of Jose Miranda and outside of Kyle Farmer. Every single one of these guys, whether it be weighted on base percentages or ISO power numbers over the past 30 days, are elevated against left-handed pitching. So forget about the Festa on the other side. Don't take the game itself. I wrote right in my notes coming up here this morning, Twins team total. So those RBIs should be popping. And when I say RBIs, too, it's not as if these guys are just above it. Margot, 240 ISO. Correa, 345. Lewis, 235. Santana, 318. Jeffers, 318. Buxton, 304. Take your pick. They should be able to win this game. Now, as I said that, well, Donnie, why don't you just take them on the money line here? I don't know about this Festa guy over here, so you know what I mean? So leave him out of the equation. We should get runs from a Twin side today.
At the rubber match in Phoenix, the Phillies won the rubber match yesterday of their midweek series in Detroit against the Tigers, 6-2 the victory. Another good day for the Phils. Nick Castellanos, an RBI.
Yeah.
A couple of RBIs as well from Marsh. As we keep it going here, we'll get to the Phils, a very hefty home favorite today with Zach Wheeler on the bump in a moment. But the Tigers on the road in Los Angeles, specifically Anaheim, as a road favorite against the Angels. What do you like here in this matchup between Detroit and L.A.?
Yeah, getting a couple tough spots here to try to handicap and be effective with both sides, because you take a look at that Detroit lineup, who I'm never in love with them. Sometimes they're good. Most of the time they're bad. It's like Vierling, Riley Green, and maybe Wenzel Perez, and then you have a day. But having said that, Davis Daniel on the mound. No statistics here in Major League Baseball. So, again, as we were going to enjoy the Festa out in the desert, I don't really know how we're going to handicap Daniel. So if we say to ourselves, let's just leave that one side out of the equation and maybe line up the other. Because if we're looking at a pitching mismatch here, let me just bring up the pitcher, Jack Flaherty. Yeah. He's been really good this season. And in particular, guys, over the past 30 days, 81 batters faced, an 0.78 ISO, and a weighted on base percentage, minuscule, at a 184. And you're not looking at a great lineup here for the Los Angeles Angels by any stretch here. So for me, if I can get a decent pitching performance by the guy on the mound for Los Angeles, it's probably going to be an under today.
So as we go to the National League Rookie of the Year odds, or at least use that in our conversation, we have focused so much on Skeens Day. 8 starts this year for the Pittsburgh Pirates that we've almost forgotten about Shota Imanaga. Last week against the Mets, not a good outing. 10 earned runs given up against the Amazons. But he entered that start with a 7-1 record and a 1.89 ERA. Shota struggled last time. The Cubs have been struggling as of late. And even 500 on June 5th, 31-31. They were 5 games above 500 in late May, 27 and 22 on May 21st. Since that June 5th number, the Cubs have dropped 13 of their last 19. They've lost 4 straight. They're in danger of being swept today in San Francisco. It's a pick'em for Imanaga and the Cubbies against the Giants. Can Shota stop the bleeding for Chicago?
Yeah, here's the tough scene. Now, we're going to get some day baseball on the West Coast, and I tell you multiple times that Marine Layer won't be there because it's in the afternoon. The ball should travel a little bit better. 66 degrees, which is typical out there, and an 11-mile-an-hour wind blowing out to center field. And keep in mind, that's exciting. It's always blowing out double digits to center field, just the way that ballpark is built there out on the bay. But having said that, let's take a look at the tale of 2 seasons, even though it's only the first half of the season this year. It feels like it. 323 total batters Imanaga has faced this year. He was absolutely incredible, maybe the best overall pitcher in Major League Baseball. Yeah. His numbers, an ISO power number of 133 and a 285 weighted on base percentage. That's for the season. That even includes, Ben, the past couple weeks. Now, the focal point is we really don't care what he was doing at the end of March, early April, and through May. I want to know what he's been doing lately, and it's been some bad pitching. 114 batters that he's faced. Look at this. An ISO of 275. And I just told you on this season, if we include those bad weeks, is a 133. Weighted on base percentage over 400. And also, it's not as if it's like, well, man, the right-handed batter's just getting the best of them. Lefties and righties are pounding this guy. Yeah. It's crazy to take a look at those statistical splits because when I use the whole season, it does include how bad he's been, which tells you how electric he was probably through his first dozen or so starts on the season. So that's the way I would look where San Francisco at home. Jordan Hicks on the mound, he's been struggling against right-handed batters over the past 30 days. But what do we keep talking about in this lineup here? It's all going wrong at the wrong time. Like, you're not getting hitting, you're not getting pitching, you're not getting bullpen help for Chicago, so it makes it tough. However, Those batters do line up decent today going up against Jordan Hicks, but it's a tough one to figure out because if I'm just saying I'm getting Imanaga from the beginning of the year, yeah, I'm taking it. But how bad the Cubs have been, it's probably just a day that you're going to take the Giants.
At one point, Shota Imanaga was an odds-on favorite to win NL Rookie of the Year. Yeah. When that was happening in the first 2 months, we were debating what's stopping him from winning not just Rookie of the Year, but the National League Cy Young Award. Now he has the third best price to win NL Rookie of the Year, and Paul Skeens is greater than a $2 favorite at minus 220. Doubleheader yesterday for the Atlanta Braves in St. Louis. They split. Reynaldo Lopez, who might be an NL Cy Young consideration, great again in the opener. The Cardinals win the second. But the Braves have still won 10 of their last 14 games. They take the small trip to Chicago. Their ace this year, Chris Sale, and reflected in the number. Not only the White Sox is the worst team in baseball, swept by the Dodgers, Chris Sale on the bump. Atlanta's a minus 320 favorite in Chicago today. So how do you bet it?
It's crazy that you'd see that number for a road start. I don't care who's on the mound or what team they're playing against, but one of the better pitchers in baseball versus one of the worst teams in Major League Baseball, and the numbers do bear that as well. We'll talk about Sale in a second. Chad Kuhl's supposed to be on the mound today. Right-handed pitcher, limited opportunities over the past 30 days. He's got 37 batters he's faced. 258 ISO, 369 weighted on base percentage against. If you're looking for RBI opportunities, and again, he's really been lit up from the left side. Jarred Kelenic, man, really turning it back on. Young player in the game who has gotten a couple chances here, but you sort of saw the Atlanta Braves take a flyer back on him and say, okay, we'll see what he can do. Due to injuries, he's thrust in that leadoff position. He's been really good. ISO power number 294 over the last 30 days and a weighted on base percentage of 383. Give me the RBI props today for Jarred Kelenic, but also on the opposite side, you're talking about a bad matchup here for that White Sox lineup that certainly has been dormant on too many occasions. Sale's been tremendous. They'll win that game, but if I'm just looking to bet it, just give me a Kelenic RBI.
More baseball breakdowns and best bets. Up next. More Major League Baseball breakdowns on this Thursday. 9-game slate around MLB. We showed you a minus 320 price in favor of the Braves on the road in Chicago against the White Sox. The Sox, the worst team in Major League Baseball. The third worst record, that's the Miami Marlins, who make the trip over to Philadelphia for a divisional duel. Zach Wheeler on the bump. The Phils are always going to be a big favorite. A 3-bill favorite? That I'm not so sure. Minus 300, the number in favor of the Phils today against the Fish. I asked you, how do you bet the Braves at a minus 320 price? What's the approach in Philly?
Yeah, the Phillies should be able to win this game, and rightfully so. They're much better than the Miami Marlins. But let me give you a take about today, right? D-Roy DRS up at 3 a.m. today, getting ready, getting prepped. Hour and a half, maybe hour 40 in the car, up here for the show. Going to drive back, get a little lunch. We're going to be back on the radio here. Look, we never miss any time. And then your boy is going to be on his way to the ballpark tonight, daddy-daughter night here for the Phillies and the Marlins. So, yep, I have my Zach Wheeler shirt on tonight, ready to go. Now, having said that.
Visor?
No. You know what? Nah. The sun will be out because we got outfield seats, so maybe it'll be a little bit warm at the start.
Anyway, break it down.
Yeah, but here we go. Trevor Rogers on the mound. Here's the problem again. Some of those left-handed pitchers do give the Phillies some issues, but you would think that would be reflective, Ben, in the overall lineup. Yeah. But you got numbers for Schwarber, Turner, Harper, Bohm, Castellanos, and Whit Merrifield have been sensational against left-handed pitching over the past 30 days. So the Phillies should get enough. So from your point of laying minus 310, I don't think that's going to be the case. Here's what I do know. Zach Wheeler's probably not going to give up more than 2 runs to that Marlins lineup. So maybe if you take a look at a team total to the under for the Marlins, it makes some sense. But I just look at the game itself. This screams 4-1, 5-1 max that the Phillies are going to pick up a victory tonight because that lineup for the Marlins isn't good. Yeah. Zach Wheeler is really good. So that's the way I'm going with this game. Give me an under.
4 ribbies yesterday for Brandon Marsh in Detroit as the Phillies won that midweek set. Bryce Harper's got 11 RBIs in the last 7 games for Philadelphia. The bats are certainly heating up. Game total is 8. So yesterday, doubleheader in St. Louis under the arch, split. Atlanta wins the opener. St. Louis gets the second game. The Cards have won 10 of their last 14. They remain in St. Louis, and Miles Michaelis gets the start today in an NL Central duel against the Cincinnati Reds. St. Louis, a slight favorite. What do you like?
Yeah, probably looking again at that 8 number and saying has a tendency to go under. Now, let's take a look at some of the numbers. Miles Michaelis on the mound on the season. He had a pretty bumpy start here, no question about it. But if you're taking a look over the past 30 days, 116 batters that he has faced. How about this? A 135 ISO and a weighted on base percentage of 242. Only 3 batters in that lineup projecting right now against right-handed pitching over the past month for the Reds have positive numbers. India, De La Cruz, and Candelario. If we flip it over to the other side, here's the issue. Abbott's on the mound. Take a look at these numbers, Ben. 121 batters he's faced as a lefty over the past month. Total combined, 227 ISO power number. Weighted on base percentage, 343. Typically, that means it's a heavy slant to right-handed bats as opposed to lefties, because lefties typically do well against left-handed batters. Not the case. 212 ISO to lefties, 234 to righties. Here's the problem, though. It's like, wow, it's clear cut, minus 130. Why do I take it? Well, why is that way? You take a look over the last 30 days for the Cardinals going up against left-handed pitching. It's been bad. Mason Wynn, Nolan Arenado, Nolan Gorman, the only guys above. So maybe the under probably is the best look. But if I had to go with the side, it's probably still going to be Michaelis at home tonight with that cheap price.
When you look at the National League Central right now, the Reds 6 games below 500, got off to a good start in June. Has not been the case in the last 2 weeks. The Cardinals 3 games above 500. The only other team with a winning record outside of the Brew Crew, but still 6 games separates Milwaukee in first and St. Louis in second. The Redbirds will be in contention, though, for a wild card spot throughout the remainder of this summer. Before we say farewell on this Thursday, it is time for a best bet. So before we say goodbye, here's an in-person edition.
Wow.
Bye. All right, a ton of baseball breakdowns from you. You will be in the stadium at the bank tonight on a Thursday in Philadelphia. Is that where you go for your best bet?
No. Because, look, just because we're going to the game, I understand you want to put wagers on it. But we're about that money here. We're about that business. Yeah. And also, shout out Joe Frizo. We had a great stinger again there. So
fantastic, Joe. Well
on
done.
that as it worked out there.
Yeah.
But let's get to winning some money tonight. I already picked out Jared Kelenic, RBI prop tonight at a plus 155 price. Chad Kuhl really struggles against lefties. Kelenic is a lefty. He's been on fire. I wouldn't be surprised if that RBI comes, by the way, the home run, but we're not going to get greedy today. We'll just go with RBI to Jared Kelenic, plus 155 price.
3 ribbies yesterday in Atlanta's opening victory in the doubleheader against St. Louis. He has had 6 RBIs in the last 4 games for the Braves. In that leadoff spot, Kelenic has been fantastic.